All right, everyone. Today we are going to talk about customary capacity. Now, customary capacity is a lot like our customary length that we studied yesterday. Customary capacity is the type of measurements we use here in America to measure our liquid things. So things like shampoo or on a measuring cup when we're measuring milk in the liquid measuring cups, a gallon of milk, a pint of creamer, all that stuff, all the liquid things, they're measured in different increments of this customary capacity, which is your challenge today. On Padlet, I'd like you to find 5 things around your house, list what they are and how much fluid ounces they are. For example, I have this cranberry juice. So cranberry juice, if you look right here, it has 10 fluid ounces. It also has, right below it, 295 milliliters. And we'll talk about milliliters next week, but for now, we're just going to worry about these, the customary capacity. All right, just like yesterday, when we go from a smaller measurement to a larger measurement, we are going to divide. And we go from a larger measurement to a smaller measurement, we're going to multiply. So just like we did on the length, you're going to do the same thing with the capacity. So over here, I have what we have. We have fluid ounces, we have cups, pints, quarts, and gallons. And on this, I have gone from the smallest measurement to the largest measurement. So if I'm going from here to here, I'm going to divide. But if I'm going from gallon to quart, I'm going to multiply. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over here, and this is our conversion chart. So this gives us the numbers we need to use in order to convert our problems. So we start with our 8 fluid ounces. 8 fluid ounces equal 1 cup. So if you've got a wet measuring cup out of your cabinet and you looked at it, it would say 1 cup, and usually they have the ounces on there as well. And the 8 ounces would be at the same point that you would see the 1 cup. So 8 fluid ounces equals 1 cup. 2 cups equal a pint. So in the grocery store, next time you go, when you're allowed out again, you can look inside the milk section where they have creamer and heavy whipping cream, which is used for some sauces and stuff like that when you're cooking or making homemade whipped cream. But it usually comes in a pint, which is 2 cups. And then we have 2 pints is equal to a quart. So 2 of the pints are going to be equal to a quart. And then 4 quarts is going to be equal to a gallon. So if some of you guys remember, and I'm going to post the link to the story of Galan, the land of Galan. It's a way of remembering what goes into what and what ultimately makes a gallon. So remember, my smaller units are over here on the left-hand side. My larger units are on the right-hand side. So if I were going this way, I'm going to divide. So 8 divided by 8, because there's 8 fluid ounces in 1 cup, 8 divided by 8 is going to equal 1. However, if I start on the left-hand or right-hand side and go left, I would be multiplying by 8 because there's 8 fluid ounces. So 1 times 8 is going to be equal to 8. So remember, if I'm going smaller to larger, I divide. If I go larger to smaller, I multiply. So with that in mind, I'm going to do 3 different examples. And since I'm doing this video for the first time, instead of like the 7th time like I was doing the video yesterday, I actually have not worked out these problems yet, and I'm going to work them out with you step by step. Hopefully this will help clear up any trouble you're having with this. I will also post a picture of the conversion chart and the list of the measurements from smallest to largest. So I'm just going to move this up and hopefully we can use both of it at the same time. Yep. All right. At least for 2 of the problems, we'll be able to use the conversion chart and without moving it up and down. So I'm going to start with 192 fluid ounces equals how many pints? So if I'm looking at this, I'm actually going from fluid ounces to cups and then over to pints. So there's actually two different things I'm doing here. It's not just going from here to here, but I'm actually going here to here. So there's a couple of steps in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down that I am going from smaller to larger. Okay, I'm going from smaller to larger. And when I go smaller to larger, if I go back up to the top, which is kind of cut off for you guys, but smaller to larger, I am going to divide. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring down my 192. So 192 divided by, and what I'm going to do here, because I'm going through 1 and then 2 of these equal signs, so there's got to be two numbers I'm going to divide by. So I'm going to actually put them in parentheses because I'm going to need to do that math first. And if we remember our order of operations, we got to do the parentheses first. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here. So it's going to take me 8 fluid ounces to go over this equal sign. So I'm going to start with 8. Okay, and then I'm going to need to multiply it by 2. And I know it's weird because we're actually going to end up dividing, but really what we're going to do is be dividing it by 8 and then dividing it by 2. So if I wanted to make it a little bit easier on myself, I can combine the 8 and 2 together by multiplying. So 8 times 2, which is 16. So I'm going to have 192 divided by 16. So over here on the side, in a different color because I like my colors, I'm going to do 192 divided by 16. Some of you may be able to do this in your head. I definitely didn't. I worked this out on a separate piece of paper. 16 goes into 19. So first thing in dividing, we are going to divide. 16 into 19 goes in once. Now I'm going to multiply. 1 times 16 is 16. And now I subtract. I get 3. 19 take away 16 is 3. And now I bring it down. 16 goes into 32 2 times. So 2 times 16 is 32. No remainder. So I know that this is going to equal 12 pints. And that would just go up into my blank. So I can write 12 right there. In your Google assignment that will be linked to Math 10.2 assignment, you would be able just to put in the number 12. All right, so now I'm going to go on to the next kind of problem, but I'm going to have to move up and you're going to lose that conversion chart, but I'm going to go back and forth between the two of them. So in this one, I am going from a quart to a cup. So if I go back up here, quart is definitely larger than a cup, and I have to take 2 steps to get there. So once again, just like my first example, I'm going to have to combine 2 numbers in order to get from a cup to a quart or a quart to a cup. So I'm going to have to multiply 2 terms together and then multiply by a third term in this case. Since I am going larger to smaller, we multiply. So let me bring up the problem. All right, so I'm going to pick a different color because the purple doesn't contrast very well with the blue. So I am going larger to smaller. when I do that, I multiply. That is just a really easy way for you to remind yourself what math function we are carrying out with this problem. So we're actually going to multiply on this one. So then I bring down my 10. I bring down my multiply sign. And then I'm going to do parentheses again, because if you remember, I said we're taking 2 steps. 2 steps means we need 2 numbers in here. If we go back up, we are going to go 1 quart. So there are 2 pints. Oh, I'm going to write this out a little bit. I went to write it, but I'll move up and then I'll show you. So 2 pints and 2 cups. So we need 2 pints and 2 cups in order to get what our answer is going to be. So I'm going to move this back up. I started to write it 2, if you can see. So 2 times 2. Okay. And I'm pretty sure we can kind of look at this and determine what it's going to be. So we have 10 times 4. And that is going to equal 40 cups. Okay. 40 cups will equal 10 quarts. Now we're going to do our last problem. And I should be able to pull it up a little bit. Our last problem is going to be one of those compare, is it greater than, is it less than, is it equal to, that type of problem. So in this problem, we also have another, we are going to be going from fluid ounces. So fluid ounces, we're going to travel down to a pint. So 1, 2. We're taking 2 steps down, so there's going to be 2 numbers in our parentheses. We are going smaller to larger, so then we need to also remember that we are dividing. So when we go into this, what we're going to do is we're going to look at, so we're going to take 2 steps no matter what. We know the number we are working with is going to be 8, because we're taking 2 steps, 8 times 2, which over here I would make a little note, just 16. So if we are looking at our 2 numbers, right? If we're looking at our 2 numbers, if we go from a 96 fluid ounces to pints, we're going to divide because it's a smaller measurement to a larger measurement. I will let you know that this number is divisible by 16. 8 is also very easily multiplied by 16. So in this case, either way you go, it's not going to be a very difficult. If you're stronger with division, by all means, go ahead and do the 96 divided by 16. If you are stronger with multiplication, there's no shame in multiplying 8 times 16. I'm going to show you both. Okay, I'm going to show you both because that way both sides of the coin, so whichever side you're on that you prefer to do, you'll have an example. So in this case, 96, we already said, we figured it out. We went, so this first one I'm going to do, and I'll use 2 different colors. I'm going to be going smaller. I'm going to underline in this color so that we know which one I'm doing. Smaller to larger. Smaller to larger, I am dividing. Okay. I am going to be dividing, so I'm going to look at 96 divided by, I already said I'm starting at 8 fluid ounces, so 8 fluid ounces to get to a cup would be multiplying, or we're going to divide by 8, but then we're also going to divide by 2 as well. Since we're dividing by both 8 and 2, we can multiply them together to get the overall number we'll be dividing by. So I'm going to multiply that by 2. So I'm going to get 96 divided by 16. And that is how I got that 16 that I wrote over here on the side, is I multiplied the 8 and the 2 together with the fluid ounces in the cup. So that's why I got what I did. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 96 by 16. I can do this over here. 6. So I'm going to actually think in my head, okay, what number do I multiply 6 by that would end in a 6? And I know if I multiply 6 by 6, I get 36. So if I put my little 3 up here, 6 times 1 is 6 plus 3 is 96. So 16 goes into 96 6 times. So over here, I know that it would be 6 pints. Okay, so up here, we'll get to that. So I have 6 pints. So the next thing I'm going to look at is for those of you who prefer multiplication. I'm going to keep the 16. We already figured out how to use the 16 and that I have to use 16. So I'm just going to keep it at 16. I don't need to do that step over again. But I'm going to start with 8, right? Because that's the number I'm using. Oh, I am also going from pints to fluid ounces. So I'm going larger to smaller. This does not like me writing right there. I'm going to scoot this. Okay. Larger to smaller, which means I am going to multiply. So I'm going to take my 8 and bring it down. And then I'm going to multiply it by my 8 and my 2, which was my 16. Same numbers because I'm still going up and down with the same measurements. So those numbers don't change. So it's going to be 8 times 16. Or you could do, remember, the commutative property and the associative property, right? The associative, if I wanted my parentheses to associate with 8 times 8, it would be 64. And then 64 times 2 seems to be a little easier of a multiplication problem. So over here, if you want to, you can do 16 times 8, right? 8 times 6 is 48, one of my favorite multiplication facts. So we have 6 times 8 is 48. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 4 is 12. So our answer would be 128 fluid ounces. I ran out of room. So now what I can do is I can say, let's pull back the other thing. I'm going to move this up a little bit, guys. Okay. I'm going to have oh, 6 pints compared to 8 pints, or 128 fluid ounces. Oh, my mistake. It'll be 96 fluid ounces compared to 128 fluid ounces. So we would have, in this case, I'm going to use the different colors, 8 and 6, and then we combine. So 6 is less than 8. And in this case, 128 is more than 96. So 96 is less than 128. So I know this lesson was a little bit longer of a video, but hopefully working these out step by step will make it a little bit easier for those of you who struggled with the last lesson a little bit. If you have any questions, please reach out to me with my email, and you can easily do that if you go into the People tab in Google Classroom and log or click on People, and then it has Teachers. I'm right there. If you push the envelope, you'll be able to get through to me by email. If not, respond to it and ask respond to the assignment on the post about the daily Google slide presentation. If you put a comment there, I'll be able to respond to you. I hope this lesson helped. And if you need any help, please reach out. And I will see you guys all again tomorrow.